We now return to Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute, the radio show discussing the honest truth about Illinois policy and politics. Here's AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Pat Hughes, continuing our discussion about the tax hikes and the budget and the Republican surrender. You got to listen to some of the floor debate and some of the comments from the legislators on both sides. I mean, it's really breathtaking. And since we don't have lives and we listen to the House floor debate on matters like tax increases, we bring them to you. Ready for this one? Mary Flowers, who has been a member of the General Assembly since the state's incorporation in 1818, she's a Chicago Democrat. She had used her allotted 5 minutes not to argue for the current tax hikes, because that's a fait accompli. Let's think ahead to the next tax hike we want to impose. Listen to Mary Flowers.
I don't want to tax business people. I don't want to tax the working homeowner. I don't want to tax the poor. I want to tax people who are not paying their fair share of transaction taxes. So please join me and vote yes, and please come back later. Let's break bread and let's have a discussion on the financial transaction tax. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's exciting. So she doesn't want to do what she's doing, which is to tax those people that she's taxing with the personal and corporate income tax. The personal income tax is a 32% increase on everybody. And she wants to then now get rid of those pesky exchanges we have in Chicago and all the insurance and financial services companies that kind of radiate around the exchanges. Need to get rid of those so those guys can pay their fair share, except then they'll be paying their fair share to the government of Costa Rica when Mary Flowers gets done with it.
She also mentioned how well it works in New York, another model of governance, the way it works, that transactional tax works in New York. But that was a very inspiring floor speech, Dan. It was like, give me liberty or give me death. Yeah. And give me death, please.
Well, if that doesn't call to mind Patrick Henry, certainly Lou Lang, D. Casinos, will inspire you. He summarized the floor debate after listening to all of the important comments from the likes of Mary Flowers, as well as surrender Republicans like Mike Yunez from Peoria, who invoked Mother Teresa, also a known inveterate tax hiker.
She really is.
Mother Teresa.
She really was.
Lou Lang lecturing the General Assembly and by way, lecturing the House, and by way lecturing us on the importance and the courage, of course, it takes to raise taxes.
And you have to ask yourself, who are you here representing? Are you here representing your political party, your governor, your campaign donors, your friends, your leaders, Facebook think tanks that don't do much thinking?
He's talking about you.
Yeah, I know.
Or do you represent everyone in the state of Illinois? Our titles are state representatives. I heard a bunch of people talk about their constituents. Your responsibilities go way beyond your own constituents. For I represent the constituents of the lady from Wheaton, and she represents mine. And I represent the constituents for the lady from Hyde Park, and she represents mine. And so it goes for all 118 of us. We do not just represent our own districts.
And so it goes. Indeed, then ostensibly you represent the entire Illinois business community as well. So let's hear from a representative of one important sector. That's the manufacturing sector. And we're pleased to be joined by Greg Bays, who's the president of the Illinois Manufacturing Association. Get his take on what the General Assembly has done. Greg, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Well, it's good to be here, I think.
Yeah. So Lou Lang and many of those who voted for the tax hikes were saying spending reforms, and even while invoking things that they've accomplished on issues that are important to your constituents at the Illinois Manufacturing Association, like workers' comp, I saw a tweet from your guy Mark Denzler saying the workers' comp bill that they keep talking about as reform would actually increase workers' comp costs for manufacturers in the state, which sounds like the kind of reform that normally emanates from Springfield. So what's the net for manufacturers after what the General Assembly has done and is poised to continue to do?
I said in a press conference day before yesterday, I'm hearing from my members here over this holiday weekend, as they would call, or we reached out to some of our board members, are dumbfounded by what's going on. There is just they're incredulous that they do not recognize what they are doing to this state. We can talk about revenues, how they're going to be spent, what we need, what's the level of taxation, but as we said all spring, let's be talking about what is going to offset those kind of increased costs by making Illinois a more friendly place to do business. Workers' compensation, people hear about it, they sort of roll their eyes, they really don't get what it's all about. But what it's about is that our costs in this state, and these are on the medical side extraordinarily out of balance with our surrounding neighbors. The indemnity costs, meaning what is rightfully owed to an injured worker to help them get back on their feet or to take care of them after they've been in the workplace, extraordinarily out of balance with our surrounding states. And the idea that the protected interest, the interest that didn't even come to the table seriously because they've been told by Speaker Madigan and others, don't worry, we're not going to do anything. The medical community, those who practice workers' comp, the physical therapy community that work on it, the costs that are out of line, don't worry about it. It's not going to occur. Organized labor never lifted a finger to come to a meeting because they've been told that. And, of course, the all-encompassing trial bar that works in this area, they were quite pleased. We're down there day in and day out hoping that we can get a bill moving, and there's no discussion of it at all. They ignore this side of the ledger. The other kinds of costs, the increased costs that are going to occur from this tax hike, and it's just going to be salt in the wound of what they see a state that hasn't controlled its spending, a pension system that is out of control, and saying, do you see what is going on in other states and why we are looking to go there? That's the... I hope your listeners get the frustration that I'm voicing because the members that I talk to, it's much greater than that.
Greg, I watched Steve Reich, Republican representative from near Waukegan, make a speech about how he grew up in Kankakee, and when he got out of high school, there were just a number of manufacturing jobs that he could take, even with a high school degree, that would have provided a great living and a nice life for people in that area. And now all those manufacturing jobs are gone, and so it goes with the rest of the state. What are your members telling you about the impact of these policies, knowing they can potentially move to Indiana, to Iowa, to Wisconsin, or wherever to make their businesses better and the lives of their employees better?
Well, I've been traveling the state all spring and made speech after speech about the fact that Illinois is closing one day at a time. You drive through the Kankakees, Mantinos of the world. You go down to Pekin, where Mike Nunez is from, and drive through that area, drive through the riverfront of Peoria. Yes, Caterpillar is still there, but how much longer, I guess, is the question. You drive into southern Illinois, and you drive after empty facility after facility. So the point is that the evidence of these policies are right in front of our face. The fact that the states around us are growing manufacturing jobs, numbers in the 70, 80, 100,000 mark since the recession of 08, 09. How much more evidence does it take that this trajectory that this state is on is absolutely the wrong one?
Well, and our neighbors too. I mean, Missouri's cutting taxes. Our other neighbors are talking about what to do with budget surpluses. So then you're talking about now if I'm a manufacturer and I'm going to look at making a long-term investment, because that's ostensibly how they have to look at it. This isn't year to year. These are big capital outlays, big investment decisions. So I'm looking at, okay, so where's Illinois going to be in a decade or 2 decades? And where is Wisconsin or Indiana or Missouri or Michigan going to be in that same period of time? And I mean, you can't look at that and say Illinois is going to be anywhere near as stable or as friendly as those neighboring states.
Absolutely not. And it's just it's astonishing that our legislators don't get that. Our Republican friends, we had hoped, would stand tall and say we're not going to offer any support for any revenue increases until we see this kind of progress. Unfortunately, the 15 Republicans that decided to do that decided to give up on that fight. Weren't willing to do it. Was it the fact that it was 4th of July weekend? We have to get home. Is it the fact that we've been down there fighting this battle for too long? You know, when Lou Lang talks about your state representatives, that's what you are supposed to be there doing. This state's in crises. It's crises because of the budget situation, the job creation arena across the board. Look at the at least temporary victory of stopping the soda tax in Cook County. Look at how crazy that was going to be. It's tax policy that people like Tony Preckwinkle thinks makes sense. That's what I think your listeners just want to scratch their head and say, who are these people and what are they thinking?
And speaking of the 4th of July, had these individuals been around at the founding and been our hope against the empire, we would still be paying tribute to the crown. He is Greg Bays, president of the Illinois Manufacturing Association, president and CEO of the Illinois Manufacturers Association. Greg, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.